Acquired archive record. Tonight, we're stepping into a slow unfolding. Settle in. Let the outside world dissolve and gently descend into tonight's world. Archaeology is a patient way of listening to the past. Most of the time, it is slow work with soil, broken pottery, and careful notes. But every so often, something turns up that feels like it should not exist. A city where there should be wilderness. A machine where there should be simple tools. A map that seems too accurate. A tomb that looks untouched by time. Some of these finds are truly misunderstood at first, then explained by better evidence. Some remain debated for decades, and some are used as fuel for wild stories that go far beyond what the facts support. Tonight, we will walk through the most interesting and mind-bending archaeological finds in history, and we will keep one foot on solid ground while we let the other foot step into wonder. Tonight, we explore the most bizarre archaeological mysteries in history. We will start with a simple rule that keeps us honest. A mystery can be real even when the explanation is ordinary, and an explanation can be incomplete even when the core facts are solid. So as we move through these stories, we will do three things again and again. We will say what is confirmed. We will say what is uncertain, and we will say what is speculation. That way, the strange beauty of these discoveries stays intact without turning into certainty that the evidence does not support. Now, imagine a human life long before writing. No books, no records, only memory and stories. Now imagine that 10,000 years later, someone finds a carved stone you left behind. That is what archaeology often feels like. A message without a sender, a fragment without a full sentence. And yet, the fragments can be so clear that they change our picture of history. One of the strongest examples of this is a place called Göbekli Tepe. What is confirmed? Göbekli Tepe is an ancient site in what is now Turkey. It contains large stone pillars, some carved with animals and symbols. The pillars are arranged in circles and enclosures. The stones are heavy. Some are many tons. Dating suggests the earliest parts may be around 11,000 years old, give or take. That places it in a time when many people assume humans were still mostly small groups of hunter-gatherers. Why it feels mind-bending. The site suggests that people could organize large construction projects before the rise of full-scale farming societies. It challenges the simple story that agriculture came first, and then temples and monuments came later. What is uncertain? We do not know every detail about the people who built it. We do not know exactly what each symbol meant. We do not know all the rituals that took place. What is speculation? Some people claim the site proves lost, advanced civilizations. The evidence does not require that. It requires organized people, skilled stonework, and a social reason to gather and build. The real mystery here is not aliens. It is humans. What kind of social world makes people lift stones that heavy, carve them, and arrange them in a pattern that matters? A place like Göbekli Tepe is a reminder that we often underestimate ancient minds. Now let us move forward in time to another find that feels like it fell out of a different century. The Antikythera mechanism. What is confirmed? In the early 1900s, divers found a shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera. Among the cargo were statues and other artifacts. One item looked like a lump of corroded bronze. Later, as it was studied, it was found to contain gears. Not simple gears. A complex set of interlocking gears. Modern studies suggest it was a kind of astronomical calculator. It could model cycles of the sun and moon, and perhaps track eclipses and calendars. Why it feels mind-bending? It looks like a mechanical computer from the ancient world. Many people assume such gear complexity came much later. What is uncertain? We do not have the full device intact. We do not know every function. We do not know how common such devices were. What is speculation? Some people claim it proves a lost global advanced technology. The better grounded view is that it shows very high skill by certain ancient engineers, likely working in a tradition of precise craftsmanship. The mystery remains. If this device existed, were there others? Were they rare masterpieces, or part of a broader craft culture that mostly vanished because bronze was often melted down and reused? Now, from metal gears, we can shift to stone blocks, because large stone construction is one of the deepest wells of human wonder. When people see huge stones placed with tight joints, they ask the same question: how? The pyramids of Egypt are the most famous. What is confirmed? The pyramids are real monuments built by ancient Egyptians, with clear evidence of the civilization that built them. There are inscriptions, there are worker villages, there are tools, there are tombs and records. The Great Pyramid at Giza is massive. Its stones are heavy. Its geometry is impressive. Why it feels mind-bending? It is hard to imagine moving and placing so many blocks without modern cranes. What is uncertain? The exact details of every step. We know a great deal, but not every choice. There may have been multiple methods changing over time. What is speculation? Claims of laser cutting, anti-gravity, or alien builders are not supported by evidence. Human labor, planning, ramps, levers, and skilled stonework can explain the construction. But even with a grounded explanation, it is still awe-inspiring. A pyramid is not only a pile of stones, it is a statement, a long-term project that outlasts the builders. Now, if we want a mystery that stays within evidence, there are details that still feel strange. The precision of some joints, the alignment to cardinal directions, the way the project was organized. These are not impossible, but they are impressive. The mystery becomes a question of human organization. How many workers? How were they fed? How were they trained? What was the rhythm of the work? Now let us step away from Egypt for a moment and go to a place where the stones look like they were shaped by imagination. In Peru, there are sites like Sacsayhuaman, with large irregular blocks fitted together. What is confirmed? The stones are large, the joints are tight, the blocks have many angles. Why it feels mind-bending? People imagine that irregular shapes should be harder to fit than rectangles, yet the fit is sometimes very close. What is uncertain? Which exact tools and methods were used for each block? There is evidence of stone working tools and techniques, but the full process can be complex. What is speculation? Some claim the stone was softened or melted. Evidence for that is weak. A more grounded view is that skilled masons shaped stones carefully, using hammerstones, abrasion, and repeated fitting. It is slow, but humans had time. Now, another category of mind-bending finds is writing that we cannot read, because an unread script is like a locked door. You can see the handle, you can see the frame, but you cannot enter. One famous example is the Phaistos disc. What is confirmed? It is a disc from Crete with stamped symbols arranged in a spiral. Why it feels mind-bending? The symbols look like a form of printing using stamps. That feels modern. What is uncertain? What language it represents? whether it is a text, a game, a calendar, or something else. What is speculation? Some claim it is fake or from a lost civilization. The debate continues. Without more examples, it is hard to confirm its function. Another example is the Indus script. What is confirmed? The Indus Valley civilization left many seals with short inscriptions. What is uncertain? We still cannot read the script with full confidence. The inscriptions are short, which makes decoding hard. The mystery remains. What stories did they write? What names? What prayers? What laws? Now, one of the most famous undeciphered systems is from Easter Island. Rongorongo. What is confirmed? There are wooden tablets with carved symbols. What is uncertain? Whether the system is a full writing system or a mnemonic aid. Many tablets were lost, and the knowledge of reading them may have disappeared. This is a painful kind of mystery, not a puzzle we have not solved, a library that burned. Now, let us step into another type of mystery, a city lost under the earth. Pompeii is a famous case. What is confirmed? In the year 79, a volcanic eruption buried Pompeii under ash and pumice. The city was preserved in a moment of time. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it is like a snapshot. Frescoes, houses, shops, and even voids where bodies were can be seen. What is uncertain? Many details of daily life still require interpretation. But the evidence is rich. Pompeii is not a conspiracy. It is a tragedy. And it is a reminder that disasters can preserve as well as destroy. Another kind of buried city is one lost to the sea. Doggerland is a name given to a land that once connected parts of Britain to continental Europe. What is confirmed? During the last ice age, sea levels were lower. As ice melted, sea levels rose. Large areas became submerged. Fishermen have pulled bones and tools from the seabed. What is uncertain? The exact shape of settlements and paths, because the evidence is underwater and scattered. What is speculation? People sometimes connect submerged lands to Atlantis. The grounded view is that sea level rise is real and can erase coastlines. Many ancient coastal settlements may now be underwater. This is a deep and quiet mystery. How much human history lies beneath shallow seas? Now we can turn to a set of finds that feel like they rewrite timelines. For many years, people assumed that certain kinds of art and behavior appeared late. Then, older evidence appeared. Cave paintings, carved figurines, musical instruments. These finds are not always bizarre in a sensational way, but they are mind-bending because they show that humans have been making beauty for a very long time. Now let us return to objects that look out of place. One such object is often called the Baghdad Battery. What is confirmed? Some artifacts from near Baghdad include ceramic jars with a metal cylinder and an iron rod. Why it feels mind-bending? The structure resembles a simple galvanic cell, like a battery. What is uncertain? What the objects were used for. Some suggest they could produce a small electric current if filled with an acidic liquid. What is speculation? Claims that ancient people used electric plating widely are not strongly supported. It may have been a container for scrolls or something else. The battery idea is one possible interpretation, but not proven. This is a good example of how a single object can be a mirror. We see modern technology in it, but the past may have had different needs. Now, another mind-bending category is maps. The Piri Reis map is often mentioned. What is confirmed? It is a map made in the early 1500s by an Ottoman admiral based on older sources. Why it feels mind-bending. Some claim it shows Antarctica before it was officially discovered. What is uncertain? Which sources were used, and how accurate the coastlines truly are. Map interpretations can be subjective. What is speculation? Claims of ancient global surveying or alien maps go beyond the evidence. The more grounded view is that the map is a compilation, and odd shapes may be distortions or misread coastlines. Still, it is a reminder. The age of exploration was full of lost charts and copied information. Maps can carry ghost knowledge. Now, let us step into a mystery of images drawn on land. The Nazca lines. What is confirmed? In Peru, large geoglyphs were made by removing dark stones to reveal lighter ground. The shapes include lines, animals, and figures. Why it feels mind-bending. They are huge. Many can be seen best from the air. What is uncertain? The exact purpose of every figure. Some may be ceremonial paths. Some may be linked to water and ritual. What is speculation? Some claim they were runways for spacecraft. That is not supported by evidence. The lines are not suited for that, and they are explained by human activity. The real mystery is cultural. Why invest so much effort? What did these lines mean to the people who made them? Now, another famous mystery is Stonehenge. What is confirmed? It is a prehistoric monument in Britain, built in stages. Some stones were transported from far away. Why it feels mind-bending. Moving large stones over long distances without modern transport is hard. What is uncertain? The full set of reasons for its design and the details of its social use. What is speculation? It is often linked to Druids and other later cultures, but the monument is older than the historical Druids. The grounded view is that it was a significant ceremonial and social site, perhaps linked to cycles of the sun and seasons. Now we can turn to a find that is not a monument, but a treasure. The terracotta army. What is confirmed? In China, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers were buried near the tomb of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Why it feels mind-bending, the scale, the detail, the idea of an entire underground army. What is uncertain? The full details of the burial and how many figures remain undiscovered. The mystery here is not whether it is real, but how a state organized such a project. Now let us step into a darker category: human sacrifice, mass graves, ritual killing. These are not cozy mysteries, but they are part of history. Places like the ancient city of Cahokia in North America show complex societies with trade, planning, and sometimes violence. What is confirmed? Cahokia was a major urban center with large earthworks and mounds. Why it feels mind-bending. Many people grew up with the false idea that pre-Columbian North America had no cities. Cahokia proves otherwise. What is uncertain? The details of political structure and ritual in every era. But the big point stands. Human history is bigger than the simplified stories taught in school. Now, a different kind of mystery is an object that appears to show advanced knowledge, like the Roman dodecahedron. What is confirmed? Small hollow bronze objects with 12 faces and holes have been found in parts of the Roman world. What is uncertain? Their purpose. Many theories exist: candle holders, measuring devices, knitting tools, games. What is speculation? Some claim secret technology, but the simplest truth is that we do not know what they were for, and that is a pure archaeological mystery, not because it defies physics, because the context is missing. Now, another class of mind-bending finds is evidence of long-distance contact. For example, There are debates about the reach of certain trade networks. We know that ancient people traded far. Amber moved across Europe. Obsidian moved across regions. Shells moved inland. Spices moved. The real surprise is often not that trade existed. It is how far it went, and how early. Now, one famous and controversial topic is the question of transoceanic contact. Did people cross oceans before the modern era? What is confirmed? Humans did cross large distances. The Polynesian expansion across the Pacific is one of the greatest voyages in history. There is also evidence of Norse presence in North America around 1,000 years ago at Lonso Meadows. What is uncertain? Other claims are debated. What is speculation? Claims that every culture visited every other culture can become a kind of global myth. Some contact is real. Many specific stories are not supported. A grounded approach is to treat each claim separately and ask for strong evidence. Now, let us move to a mystery that feels like a storybook. A tomb discovered, sealed, and filled with glittering objects. Tutankhamun. What is confirmed? The tomb was found in the Valley of the Kings in 1922. It contained a large set of artifacts. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it was a rare, mostly intact royal tomb. What is uncertain? Many details of Tutankhamun's life and the politics of his time remain debated. What is speculation? The curse story is mostly a media creation. Deaths did occur, but there is no solid evidence of a supernatural curse. Still, the human mind loves a curse, because a tomb feels like a boundary, and a boundary invites taboo. Now, another class of mysteries comes from objects found without clear origins, the so-called out-of-place artifacts. Many such claims are misunderstandings or hoaxes, but a few are worth discussing as cautionary tales. Sometimes an object is real, but its story is wrong. A rock formation becomes a hammer. A natural concretion becomes a gear. A modern item gets buried and later dug up. So the real mystery becomes, how do we know what we know? Archaeology relies on context, where something is found, in what layer, with what other objects. Without context, an object can be misread. This is why controlled excavation is so important. Now let us visit an island where stone faces stare across the grass. Easter Island, also called Rapa Nui. What is confirmed? The Moai statues are real. Many were carved and moved by the islanders. Why it feels mind-bending. The statues are large and heavy. The island is remote. What is uncertain? Details of social organization and the exact methods used for moving each statue. But experiments suggest that statues can be moved by rocking them with ropes, like walking. What is speculation? Some claim the statues are evidence of giants or aliens. The evidence supports human carving and transport. The deeper mystery is a human one. How a society uses art, how it competes, how it collapses. Now consider another set of stone heads, the Olmec colossal heads. What is confirmed? In Mesoamerica, large basalt heads were carved and moved. Why it feels mind-bending, the realism and the weight. What is uncertain? The identities of the individuals portrayed. What is speculation? Some fringe claims say the heads show Africans or outsiders and prove global contact. The grounded view is that they depict local rulers with helmets or headgear. Still, they show a powerful truth. Complex societies existed in many places, and they created monumental art. Now let us switch to a discovery that feels like it belongs in a museum of time travelers. A sealed jar, a scroll, the Dead Sea Scrolls. What is confirmed? ancient Jewish texts were found in caves near the Dead Sea in the mid-1900s. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it is a library in a cave. Because it preserves early versions of texts. What is uncertain? Many details of the community connected to the scrolls and the full story of how they were stored. What is speculation? Conspiracy stories about hidden gospels and secret messages are common. The real story is already fascinating without that. Now, another kind of mystery is a place that looks like a city but is not quite. A mound, a hill, a layered record, a tell. In many parts of the Middle East, ancient settlements are stacked on top of each other because people build, abandon, and rebuild. Each layer is a life. One of the most mind-bending feelings in archaeology is that a home can become a foundation. A foundation can become a street. A street can become a hill. Now, let us visit a find that is both famous and misunderstood. The so-called crystal skulls. What is confirmed? Some crystal skulls exist in collections. What is uncertain? Many were claimed to be ancient. What is now strongly supported? Many are likely modern creations, made with tools not available in the claimed era. This is important, not to ruin the mood, but to show the pattern. People want mysteries so much that they manufacture them, and that can distract from the real wonders. Now let us talk about a real, ancient wonder that still feels like magic. Roman concrete. What is confirmed? Romans built structures that have lasted a very long time, including harbour structures. Their concrete had ingredients that created durable chemical reactions. Why it feels mind-bending? Because modern concrete sometimes fails faster. What is uncertain? Details of how different recipes were chosen. What is speculation? Some claims treat it like a lost super technology. It is better seen as a clever use of local materials. Now, another mind-bending find is a ship preserved, like the Viking ships. What is confirmed? Viking burials included ships preserved in mounds. Why it feels mind-bending? Because wood rarely survives, but in certain soils, it can. The ships show craftsmanship, travel, and social status. Now, let us return to the theme of machines. If the Antikythera mechanism is one, there are others that feel strange. For example, a small bird-shaped object from ancient Egypt is sometimes called the Saqqara bird. What is confirmed? A wooden object shaped like a bird exists. What is uncertain? Whether it was a toy, a model, a symbolic object. What is speculation? Claims that it proves airplanes are not supported. The object can be explained as a bird figure or a glider toy, but it is not clear that it was used as a flying machine. Again, the mystery is softer. We do not know what it meant. Now, let us talk about a place where the ground itself hides a city. Angkor. What is confirmed? Angkor in Cambodia was a massive urban and temple complex. Modern remote sensing has revealed a large network of water management and roads. Why it feels mind-bending? Because the jungle can hide scale. From the ground, you see ruins. From above, you see a system. This is a lesson. Sometimes history is not lost because it is gone. It is lost because it is covered. Now, another mind-bending case is the city of Troy. What is confirmed? A site in Turkey matches the location of ancient Troy, with multiple layers of occupation. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it connects myth and material. What is uncertain? Which layer matches the events behind the Iliad, and how much is poetic? The mystery is not whether Troy existed, it is how story and history blend. Now we can move into a set of finds that are bizarre because they show a choice that is hard to explain. For example, bog bodies. What is confirmed? In parts of northern Europe, bodies preserved in peat bogs have been found. The bog conditions can preserve skin and hair. Why it feels mind-bending? Because you can look into a face from 2,000 years ago. What is uncertain? Why each person ended up in the bog. Some may be sacrifices, some may be executions, some may be accidents. The mystery remains. Now, a gentler category is art. The Lascaux cave paintings, Chauvet, Altamira. What is confirmed? Humans painted animals with skill tens of thousands of years ago. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it means the mind that makes art is ancient. Now, we should include a find that is both glamorous and practical. Sutton Hoo. What is confirmed? In England, an early medieval ship burial was found with rich objects. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it shows a world of kings and craft, in a time once called the Dark Ages. It is not dark, it is detailed. Now, another famous hoard is the Staffordshire hoard. Gold, weapons, craft. These show that human skill existed even when records are sparse. Now, a major category of mind-bending archaeology is the discovery of entire civilizations that were not known. For example, the Maya cities hidden in forests, or the Khmer, or the Indus Valley cities, or the city of Caral in Peru. What is confirmed? Caral is an ancient city with monumental architecture, very old for the Americas. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it pushes complexity earlier than many people expect. Now, let us slow down and think about why these finds feel mind-bending. It is often because they break a simple story. A simple story says, first, humans are primitive. Then, they learn farming. Then, they build cities. Then, they build monuments. Then, they invent machines. Then, they sail far. Then, they write. But real history is not a straight line. It has jumps. It has branches. It has cultures that bloom and fade. It has knowledge that is gained and lost. So, a bizarre artifact may not require a lost global civilization. It may require a local tradition of skill that ended. Now, we can include one more famous mystery. The Voynich manuscript is often mentioned, but it is not an archaeological find in the ground in the same way. Still, it is an artifact mystery. What is confirmed? It is a medieval or early modern manuscript with unknown script and strange illustrations. What is uncertain? Whether it is a code, a constructed language, or nonsense. The mystery remains. But we will keep our focus on finds tied to excavation and material context. Now let us talk about a truly strange category. Artifacts that seem to show animals or beings that do not fit. Sometimes these are misread. Sometimes they are symbolic. Sometimes they are modern forgeries. The lesson is to be careful. The past had imagination, and imagination leaves marks. A dragon in a carving does not mean a literal dragon. It can mean myth. Now, one of the most mind-bending truths is that ancient people were capable of careful measurement. They tracked stars. They tracked seasons. They built calendars. They aligned structures. So when we find a site aligned to the solstice, it is not proof of secret knowledge. It is proof of attention. Now, let us return to the feeling of discovery. Imagine an archaeologist on a hot day, a trowel, a brush, a line of stones. Then, the line becomes a wall. Then, the wall becomes a room. Then, the room becomes a city. The mind-bending part is not the object. It is the moment of connection. When you realize, someone stood here, someone cooked here, someone worried here, someone laughed. Now we can visit one more giant mystery, the Library of Alexandria. Not a single artifact, but an absence. What is confirmed? A major center of knowledge existed. Much was lost over time through conflict and decay. What is uncertain? Exactly what texts were there? The mystery is a ghost, a world of thought we cannot fully recover. Now, if we want to keep the night gentle, we can close by returning to what these mysteries do for the mind. They show that history is not flat. It is deep, it is layered, and it holds surprises. Some surprises are solved, some stay open. And the best kind of mystery is one that invites careful attention, not careless belief. So as you rest, you can picture the earth as a vast archive, under streets, under fields, under forests, under sand, under water. There are rooms, there are tools, there are bones, there are songs turned into scratches on clay. There are calendars carved in stone. There are gears corroded into green lumps. There are pillars standing where no one expected them. And each find is a quiet question. Who were we? And what did we leave behind? The answers come slowly, but they come, one brush stroke at a time, one measured layer at a time, one careful drawing at a time. Before we end, there are more discoveries that belong in this quiet tour, because they widen the map of what humans have done and what they have wondered. Think about a small disc of bronze found in Germany, dark with age, with gold inlaid shapes that look like stars. This is the Nebra sky disk. What is confirmed is simple. It is real. It is old. It shows a crescent, a full circle, and many points that resemble stars, including a cluster that matches the shape of the Pleiades. It also has arcs along the edges that may relate to the sun's path. Why it feels mind-bending is also simple. It suggests careful attention to the sky in a time long before written astronomy in that region. It hints that people were tracking seasons and celestial patterns with enough precision to make a symbolic object. The uncertainty is in the details. We do not know exactly how it was used. We do not know whether it was a teaching tool, a ritual symbol, a status object, or all of these. Speculation often tries to leap from this to claims of secret star maps, but the grounded wonder is already deep. People watched the sky, and they made meaning from it, and they built tools of memory. Now think about a place where stone blocks are stacked into tall walls, in a pattern so clean that it looks like it was planned with a ruler. Great Zimbabwe is one of the strongest examples. What is confirmed is that it is a major stone-built site in southern Africa, built by local people connected to trade, wealth, and complex social organization. For a long time, outsiders tried to deny this. They invented stories about foreign builders because they could not accept the idea of advanced local construction. That history of denial is its own lesson. Sometimes the real mystery is not the ruins. It is the bias of the viewer. Great Zimbabwe is mind-bending because it is huge, because it is elegant, and because it forces a correction to the old false story that some regions had no complex states. Now imagine a site in Egypt, in a desert, where a smooth stone sarcophagus sits in a chamber, heavy and precise. The Serapeum at Saqqara. What is confirmed is that large stone boxes exist there, linked to the burial of sacred Apis bulls. The boxes are enormous. The stonework is impressive. Why it feels mind-bending is the weight and the tightness of the fit. Uncertainty comes from missing context. Not every tool and method is preserved, but we know ancient Egyptians had copper tools, stone tools, abrasive sand, and time. Speculation loves to claim impossible cutting methods. The grounded view is that skilled craftsmen, using repeated abrasion and careful checking, can achieve a very fine result. It is slow, but slow is how much of history was built. Now, let us go to the ocean, because water hides some of the strangest archives. Shipwrecks are time capsules. A wreck can hold pottery in stacks, still packed as cargo. It can hold coins in jars. It can hold weapons. It can hold a whole set of daily objects that rarely survive on land. And sometimes, a wreck holds something that shifts a timeline. For example, ancient trade routes become visible when you find a wreck full of goods from far away. The mind-bending part is to realize how connected the ancient world could be. Not connected in the modern sense of instant communication, but connected by slow, steady movement of people and objects. Now think about a place that was a city, then became a ruin, then was buried, then was found again. The ancient city of Heracleion, sometimes called Thonis, in Egypt. What is confirmed is that underwater archaeology has found remains of a city in the sea near the Nile Delta. Statues and blocks and anchors have been recovered. Why it feels mind-bending is that a whole city can slide into the sea and become a legend, then become a fact again. The uncertainty is in how exactly the city changed and sank, through shifting sediments and natural processes. Speculation is not needed. Earth changes, coasts move, ground liquefies, and human places can vanish. Now, let us return to stone for a moment. There are places where a single stone seems to be shaped like a question. In Baalbek, in Lebanon, there are enormous stones in the Roman-era platform. Some blocks are among the largest used in ancient construction. What is confirmed is their size and their placement. Why it feels mind-bending is the scale. Uncertainty remains about the exact methods and reasons for choosing stones that big. The grounded view is that Romans and local builders had advanced engineering for their time, and they used teams, rollers, levers, and careful planning. Still, the stones remain a kind of silent challenge. Not a challenge to physics, a challenge to our imagination. Now, consider a different kind of mystery. Footprints. Not in a metaphorical sense, actual footprints. In some places, ancient footprints have been preserved in mud that hardened. They show the shape of toes. They show a stride. They show a pause. Sometimes they show a group walking together. It is mind-bending because it collapses time. A footprint is a moment. And when you see it, you realize that the past was not just kings and wars. It was walking. It was carrying. It was children. Now we can move into one of the most debated categories, sites that some people claim are natural and others claim are built. Underwater structures are a common example. Sometimes a rock formation has flat surfaces and right angles, because rocks can break along planes. Sometimes the sea can carve steps. Sometimes humans can build, and then the sea can cover. The mind-bending part is that both are possible, so the grounded approach is careful. We look for tool marks, we look for repeated patterns, we look for artifacts in context, we look for dating. If those are missing, we keep the question open, without turning it into a story of certainty. Now let us visit the desert again. In the Middle East, there are structures called desert kites, long lines of stones forming funnel shapes. What is confirmed is that these were used as hunting traps, guiding animals into an enclosure. Why it feels mind-bending is that it is large-scale landscape engineering by ancient people. using low stone walls that can still be seen from above. It shows planning and knowledge of animal behavior. Now consider another find that looks like a story: a cemetery of boats. In ancient Egypt and other cultures, boats were buried for ritual reasons. The boats show that travel and water mattered deeply. Now move to another continent. In the Andes, there are quipu, cords with knots. What is confirmed is that they were used to record information, likely numbers, and perhaps more. Why it feels mind-bending is that a cord can be a book. The uncertainty is how much meaning was encoded. Some researchers think quipu may have held narrative information, not only accounting. If true, then there are stories tied in knots that we cannot fully read yet. That is a beautiful mystery. Now think about the cave of a person who lived in ice, the mummified body known as Otzi, found in the Alps. What is confirmed? He is real. He lived thousands of years ago. He carried tools. He had tattoos. He had a life and a death. Why it feels mind-bending? Because preservation can be so good that you can analyze his last meal. You can study his clothing. You can see his wounds. The uncertainty is in the story. Was he hunted? Was he escaping? Was he ambushed? The evidence suggests violence, but the full narrative is unknown. Now, another set of mysteries comes from human origins. Not because humans are mysterious in a supernatural way, but because the record is incomplete. New fossils appear, old fossils are reinterpreted, and the family tree shifts. The mind-bending part is that our own story is still being written. Now let us return to craft. There are ancient beads made of materials that require high heat. There is ancient glass. There is ancient steel. For example, Wootz steel and Damascus steel traditions. What is confirmed? Certain regions developed ways of producing high-quality steel. The patterns and strength could be impressive. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it shows that material science existed long before modern labs. The uncertainty is in the full set of recipes, because many were trade secrets or oral traditions. This is another type of lost knowledge, not a global lost civilization, a lost workshop method. Now, consider a mystery that is not a single object, but a number. How many people lived in ancient cities? How dense were they? How were they fed? When archaeologists find ancient garbage, like shell middens and broken pottery piles, it can be a clue. A trash heap is a diary of daily life. It shows what people ate, what they valued, what they threw away. It is mind-bending, because it shows how real the past was. Not mythical, not abstract, real. Now let us visit a famous set of caves again. Not for paintings this time, for tiny objects, beads, shells, pieces of ochre. These show that symbolic behavior is old. People carried color, they carried ornaments, they marked identity. This is mind-bending in a quiet way. It tells you that the human mind, the mind that cares about meaning, is ancient. Now let us talk about one of the most debated and often misused mysteries: the so-called crystal structures, giant energy grids, and claims that ancient monuments were power plants. What is confirmed? Ancient monuments often align to the sky. Ancient monuments often stand on high places. Ancient monuments often use stone. These facts are sometimes used to claim a hidden technology. What is uncertain? The exact symbolic reasons for every choice. What is speculation? That these were literal machines. The evidence usually does not support that, but there is a grounded version of this feeling. Monuments are machines of a kind. They are machines for social memory. They coordinate people. They focus attention. They create shared identity. That kind of machine does not need electricity. It needs belief. Now, one of the most mind-bending finds in history is when a long-lost language is suddenly readable. The Rosetta Stone is the classic example. What is confirmed? It contained the same text in multiple scripts, which allowed scholars to decode Egyptian hieroglyphs. Why it feels mind-bending? Because a silent civilization can speak again. Now imagine what it is like to hold an artifact that could do the same for another script. A bilingual inscription, a long text, a dictionary. This is why undeciphered scripts feel like such deep mysteries, because one find could open a whole world. Now let us add a few more concrete cases that people often call mind-bending. The city of Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley. What is confirmed? It had planned streets, drainage, and standardized bricks. Why it feels mind-bending? Because urban planning existed early and far from the traditional focus of history lessons. The uncertainty remains in the political system, because texts are hard to read. Now, consider the Bronze Age collapse. Not a single find, but a pattern. Many societies in the Eastern Mediterranean suffered disruptions around the same period. What is confirmed is that multiple centers declined. What is uncertain is how the causes combined: climate, war, trade disruption, disease, internal conflict. It is mind-bending because it shows that complex systems can fail, and that failure can erase knowledge. Now, let us return to a place in the Americas, the ancient city of Teotihuacan. What is confirmed? It was a huge city with pyramids and a planned layout. Why it feels mind-bending? Because we still debate who exactly founded it and how its power worked. We have art, we have buildings, we have burials, but we do not have a clear written history, so it stands like a silent giant. Now consider another quiet giant, the ancient mound builders of North America. There are many earthworks. Some are geometric, some are shaped like animals. The Great Serpent Mound is one of the most famous. What is confirmed? It is an earthwork shaped like a serpent. It is old, though dating and phases are debated. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it shows large-scale design in soil. Because it suggests deep symbolic systems. The uncertainty is in who built it and when, because earthworks can be repaired and modified. Speculation often tries to connect it to lost continents. The grounded wonder is already enough. People shaped land into meaning. Now, we can also include a mystery that lives at the edge of myth, the idea of Atlantis. What is confirmed? Plato wrote a story. People have searched. Many have claimed finds. What is uncertain? Whether any real event inspired the story. What is grounded? We know islands can collapse. We know tsunamis can destroy cities. We know volcanic eruptions can erase settlements. For example, the eruption of Thera, also called Santorini, affected the Aegean. So a real disaster could have inspired later myth. But a single perfect lost city is not confirmed. The best way to treat Atlantis tonight is as a symbol of how easily a memory can become a legend. Now, let us return to the theme of the first people. In many places, there are debates about when humans arrived. New sites push dates. Old sites are questioned. This is not because archaeologists are careless. It is because the evidence is hard. A single stone tool can be misidentified. A natural fracture can look like a human flake. So the mystery is not a single object. It is the careful line between natural and human. Now think of a simple tool, a hand axe. It is stone, it is shaped, it fits in a hand. It could be hundreds of thousands of years old. It is mind-bending because it shows how long technology has been with us, not in the form of smartphones, but in the form of a shaped edge. Now consider a different kind of mind-bending find: a child's toy, a small animal figurine, a doll. These are rare because organic materials decay, but when they survive, they change the mood of the past. A toy means play, a doll means care, a carved animal means imagination. Now think about the moment when archaeologists find pigment on a statue. Many ancient statues were painted, bright colors, eyes, patterns. Time removed the paint and left white stone. Modern people grew used to the white look, but the past was colorful. This is mind-bending because it shows how wrong a familiar image can be. Now let us talk about a final kind of mystery: the mysteries that are created by looting. When a site is robbed, the objects may survive, but the context is destroyed. A beautiful artifact becomes a floating story without roots. That is why many mysteries cannot be solved. Not because the past is impossible, because we tore out the pages. So if you want a single lesson from tonight, it is this: the past is not only strange, it is fragile, and the best mysteries are those we approach with care. Now, with all of these images in mind, we can finally let the tour slow down again. One more gentle sweep before we rest, because there are a few more finds that are not just odd objects, but whole places that change how we picture human life. Consider Çatalhöyük. What is confirmed? It is a large Neolithic settlement in what is now Turkey. People lived in houses packed closely together, with entrances often through the roof. Inside, there were wall paintings, plastered surfaces, and signs of long-term dwelling. Quiet feels mind-bending, because it looks like an early form of urban life, but not in the way modern cities work. There are not clear streets in the same way. There is a dense, shared surface of roofs. The uncertainty is in social structure. Was there a central authority? How did rules work? How did conflict get managed? The grounded wonder is that humans experimented with ways of living together long before later states. Now think about the Jomon culture in Japan. What is confirmed? Jomon pottery can be very old, among the earliest pottery traditions. Many Jomon groups were hunter-gatherers who still made pottery. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it breaks another simple story, the idea that pottery must come after farming. In some places, people made pottery while still living by hunting, fishing, and gathering. The uncertainty is in the details of each region and era, because Jomon spans a long time. But the lesson is clear. Human culture does not evolve in one straight order. It tries different paths. Now, consider a place in Peru again, but this time not lines on land. A fortress city on a ridge, Machu Picchu. What is confirmed? It is an Inca site built with careful stonework, set in dramatic mountains. It was not unknown to local people, but it became widely known to the outside world later. Why it feels mind-bending? Because of location, because of design, because the stonework looks like it was shaped to fit nature. Uncertainty remains about the precise purpose of the site and its full social role, but the grounded view is still astonishing. A mountain can become a planned place. Now let us add another desert set of puzzles: petroglyphs and rock art. In many regions, people carved shapes into stone: animals, hunters, symbols. Some carvings are clear, some are ambiguous. The mind-bending part is that you can stand where the artist stood. You can put your hand on the same rock. You can feel the groove, but you cannot ask the artist what it meant. This is the heart of archaeological mystery, not impossibility, silence. Now consider a find from the steppe, the Scythian and other steppe burials in permafrost. What is confirmed? In cold regions, burials can preserve textiles, wood, and even tattoos. Why it feels mind-bending? Because you can see patterns and colors that would normally rot away. You can see clothing. You can see tools. You can see the small details of life. This, again, is a reminder. Sometimes what feels like a miracle is simply chemistry and temperature. Now consider a famous case of a message in stone, the Easter Island Moai. But this time, the surprise is under the ground. Many Moai have bodies, not only heads. The soil rose over time, so the statues that looked like heads were actually full figures. This is a small example of a larger truth. The ground hides parts of what we think we know. Now, let us visit a place that is often linked to mystery because it is isolated, the island of Malta. What is confirmed? Malta has very old temples built of stone. Some of these structures are among the oldest freestanding stone buildings. Why it feels mind-bending? Because of age, because of scale for a small island. Uncertainty remains about the full ritual system and the social organization. But again, the grounded lesson is human skill. Now, we can add a quiet but powerful category: ancient medicine. Trepanation is one example, where people cut or drilled into skulls. What is confirmed? Trepanation occurred in multiple cultures. Some skulls show signs of healing, meaning some patients survived. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it suggests knowledge and practice that seems risky. The uncertainty is in why it was done. Treatment of injury, ritual, belief. The past mixed medicine and spirituality. Now let us return to one more gear, like mystery. Not gears, but numbers. The Maya calendar. What is confirmed? The Maya track time with complex calendar systems. Their inscriptions show dates and events. Why it feels mind-bending? Because it is precise and layered. Uncertainty remains in some interpretations, but we can read much of their writing. This is a solved door, at least partly, and it shows how much is lost when writing cannot be read. Now, another mind-bending find is when archaeology shows that a story people told was partly true. For example, the city of Nineveh, or the Hittites, or the existence of certain dynasties. History and myth can overlap, but the overlap does not mean every myth is literal. It means memory can preserve shapes of truth. Now consider one last mystery that is quiet but enormous. How many sites are still undiscovered? In jungles, LiDAR has revealed hidden structures and networks. In deserts, shifterless sands can hide walls. In plains, fields can cover mounds. In cities, new buildings cover old ones. So, the mind-bending part is not only what we have found, it is what we have not found. There are likely temples still buried. There are likely graves still hidden. There are likely tools still waiting. There are likely inscriptions still sealed, and each one could change a story. That is why archaeology remains a living mystery. Not because the past is supernatural, because the past is vast, and we have only opened a few drawers. Now we can finally let the questions slow. There is also a special kind of mystery that comes from tiny objects. A ring, a bead, a comb, a needle. These are easy to overlook, but they can be as revealing as a pyramid. A needle means clothing. Clothing means planning for seasons. A comb means grooming and identity. A bead means decoration and trade. Sometimes one bead can show that a community had contact far beyond what we expected. For example, a piece of lapis lazuli found far from its source can reveal a trade path, and a single foreign coin can show a traveler. Not an empire, just one person moving, carrying a story. Another small object that becomes a large question is a seal. Seals are like signatures. They often carry symbols of authority. They can be pressed into clay to mark ownership. When archaeologists find a seal, they can sometimes trace networks of administration and commerce. It is mind-bending because a small stamp can imply a whole bureaucracy, a whole system of trust. Now, consider the way archaeology sometimes reveals a disaster. A layer of ash, a burned city, a sudden change in pottery styles, a mass grave. These are the fingerprints of events that were never written down or whose writing was lost. For example, some ancient cities show evidence of sudden fire. Walls collapsed, grain stored and burned. People fled, or did not. The uncertainty is often in the cause. Was it war? Was it accident? Was it internal conflict? But the evidence of a turning point can be clear, and that is a reminder. History is not only what is planned, it is what happens. Now think about the way modern tools are changing archaeology. Ground-penetrating radar, magnetometry, LiDAR, satellite imagery. These tools can reveal shapes under soil without digging, a hidden wall, a buried road, a lost building. This is mind-bending in a modern way, because we are now finding hidden cities without lifting a single stone at first. It is as if the earth is becoming transparent. But even then, the mystery remains, because a shape is not a story. A shape is a clue. The story still requires careful work, careful dates, careful context, careful comparisons. And sometimes, even with care, the story stays incomplete, because not every drawer contains a label. So as you sink deeper into rest, you can hold one last calm thought. The past is not finished. It is still being discovered. And the strangest finds are not always the ones that look like science fiction. Often, they are the ones that show that ordinary people, long ago, were already fully human. They built, they traded, they argued, they cared for their dead, they watched the stars, they made art, they made tools, they made mistakes, they hoped, and sometimes, by accident or by ritual, they left behind a single object that can still stop us in our tracks. If we add just one more thread, it is the thread of sound. We rarely think of sound as an artifact, but it can be. Ancient flutes made from bone have been found. Simple instruments, carefully shaped, holes spaced for notes. This is confirmed. People made music deep in prehistory. That is mind-bending, because it means that even in harsh times, humans carried melody. We also find bells, rattles, drums hinted by frames and skins that did not survive. We find spaces that may have been chosen for echoes, caves that amplify a voice. This is harder to prove, but it is a reasonable possibility, because humans notice acoustics. They notice when a place answers back. So when you hear about a temple or a chamber that seems designed for a certain kind of sound, the grounded approach is to test it, measure the echo, measure resonance, compare to other spaces. Sometimes the result is ordinary, sometimes it is surprising, and either way, it brings the past closer. Not as a silent museum, but as a world of voices, a world of footsteps, a world of tools striking stone, a world of fire, a world of water in jars, a world of songs carried across a night sky. And if you ever wonder why so many people love these mysteries, here is a calm answer. Because they remind us that we are not the first people to be clever. We are not the first people to be curious. We are not the first people to look at a strange object and ask what it is for. The past is filled with minds that solved problems using the tools they had. Sometimes their solutions look unfamiliar. Sometimes they look surprisingly modern. Sometimes they look like art. And sometimes they look like a riddle. A riddle that can only be solved by patience, by careful layers, by careful dates, and by the humility to say, we do not know yet. So let the mind-bending parts stay gentle. A gear that should not be there, but is. A pillar older than expected. A city hidden under trees. A line in the desert. A face in a bog. A star disk in the soil. Each one is a small lantern, not to blind you, just to light the edge of what we know. And when sleep comes, you do not need to solve anything. You can let the unanswered questions remain unanswered, because the work is already being done somewhere by someone with a brush and a notebook, a trench measured in centimeters, a shard labeled and stored, a sample sent for dating, a pattern compared to 100 other patterns, slow steps, quiet steps, steps that turn wonder into knowledge without killing the wonder. There is time, there is depth, there are layers under layers, and there will always be one more strange object in the dark, waiting for daylight. And if you remember nothing else from this long drift, remember this. Most of the greatest surprises in archaeology were not found by chasing legends. They were found by steady work, by people willing to look at small things, by people willing to wait. And when something truly strange appears, they do not rush to a story. They gather more evidence. They ask better questions. And the past becomes a little clearer. And for tonight, that is enough. The mysteries can stay mysteries. They do not need to be forced into a single story. They can simply be held, like stones warmed by the sun, like a sealed jar, like a forgotten road under grass. And as the room grows quieter, you can let the past become distant again, not gone, just resting, waiting. This was a quiet archive story, where the story ends, sleep begins,